It's always good to watch something new be introduced into the horror genre, like what the Duffer Brothers did with Stranger Things. And the funny thing is, many networks said no to this project, but they finally did find a home. In July 2016, 8 episodes of Stranger Things was released on Netflix. Twin brothers, Matt and Ross Duffer, who are huge 80s horror fans, centered the show's theme and timeline in the early 80s. And I love the intro, which reminds me a lot of John Carpenter's music. To describe this show, it's very much like Steven Spielberg's E.T. meets Stephen King's It. Now let's get into the show, because this is the part where we're about to get into some spoiler alert territory. Here's your last warning. Let's begin. In the year 1983, in the town of Hawkins, Indiana, 4 12-year-old boys, Mike Wheeler, Will Byers, Lucas Sinclair, and Dustin Henderson, play the popular board game of Dungeons & Dragons. As the boys depart and split to go home, Will has the bad luck of running into a monster. As the monster gives chase and corners Will, they both suddenly disappear. Will is missing, and the mystery of what's going on in Hawkins has just begun. Will's mother, Joyce, hey, look, it's Winona Ryder, and Will's older brother, Jonathan, begin the search of Will with the help from Chief Jim Hopper. At the same time, the boys begin their own investigation. They don't find Will, but they do run into L, short for 11, who has telekinetic powers, who just escaped Hawkins' laboratory. So the question is, who or what is Hawkins' laboratory? It's a government facility run by Dr. Martin Brenner that's been running shady experiments to combat the Russians during the Cold War. During one of the many experiments, L is able to spy on the Russians. Dr. Brenner, who plays the father role, wants L to get deeper, and that's what happens. L's powers exceed anything that what she expected, and she accidentally enters a different world, aka the Upside Down world. And this is where we first see the monster. The interaction allows a big crack back at the Hawkins laboratory, which is now a doorway between the real world and the Upside Down world. Speaking of the monster, remember that board game, Dungeons & Dragons, that Mike, Lucas, Will, and Dustin were playing? In the game, they were up against a demon prince called the Gorgon, which is what they eventually named the monster after. It might not be the correct name since in the credits, it's called the monster. And some have even called it the Dark Dimension creature, since we're still not sure if there's only one or more of them. But screw it, let's just call it the Demogorgon for now. The monster, aka the Demogorgon, lives in the Upside Down world and has the ability to open a door into the real world and bring its victims back into the Upside Down world, just like what he did with Will Byers. And yes, let's not forget Barb. With one drop of any blood in the real world, it will attract the Demogorgon from the Upside Down world. Now to the conclusion of Stranger Things. Joyce and Chief Jim Hopper make a deal with Dr. Brenner as they enter the Upside Down world from the portal gate at Hawkins' laboratory. And at the same time, Dr. Brenner's on his way to the middle school to apprehend 11. While exploring the Upside Down world, Joyce and Jim Hopper find Will, and probably the most shocking scene as we see a nest from the remaining Demogorgon victims. Very much in the Aliens type style. Joyce and Jim Hopper rescue Will and bring him back to the real world. Back at the school, there's a confrontation between the gang versus the sinister agents. And now the Demogorgon has decided to show up. The final showdown between L and the Demogorgon ends up with both of them disappearing as a mini explosion occurs. Does this mean that L is dead? During the final moments of the finale, after a party, Jim Hopper heads out to the woods and then he leaves a batch of waffles. This would strongly suggest that L is still alive and living in the Upside Down world. But hey, good news is, Will is back. Or is he? In the final scene, we see Will excuse himself from the dinner table. As he head into the bathroom, he breaks down and then we see a slug that is spit right out of his mouth into the sink. I've seen way too many horror movies to know that can't be good. And Will is very much in trouble. In fact, who's to say it's even Will anymore? I would say the whole town of Hawkins, Indiana is very much in danger, and all signs of a future downfall for the town is pointing back to Will and that slug. There are so many questions that haven't been answered. One of the remaining questions, what is the Upside Down world? Is it the future real world? Is it a different dimension? Is it all made up from L? Or is it a counterattack from the Russians? All good theories, but truth be told, there's just not enough facts. It's a good thing that not only season 2 was greenlight, but it's in productions as we speak to provide some of the answers, but more likely add more questions too. We know one thing about season 2, it's going to take place 1 year later in the great year of 1984, which if I'm not mistaken is the year Transformers is born. Season 2 will be more inspired from the James Cameron movies from the 80s. For example, Aliens, which we definitely saw in the finale. The egg and the nest that Hopper and Joyce found are all signs that we will see more Demogorgons, or just different monsters, and maybe even a queen monster. So what do you guys think about the Upside Down world, and what's your theory behind it? Horror Squad rates Stranger Things a perfect 10 out of 10. What an amazing TV show, and I love the main gang, which reminds me of The Losers Club, Goonies, and Monster Squad. If you haven't watched Stranger Things, what are you waiting for?